Hey everyone, John Henry here, slingshotfutures.com, and welcome to the daily futures market outlook for the big six that we trade, and that's going to be the Bund, Euro, Gold, the bonds, crude oil, and the S&P. And this is going out for trading tomorrow, which is going to be the 13th of April. Now, before we start jumping into the charts, we're going to go through our normal stuff here, but we do have a bunch of chatter coming out of President Trump and talking with the UN and all kinds of different stuff. So we'll dig into that in a minute, but as usual, make sure to swing on over to the website, scroll down, and click on the Join the Daily Outlook newsletter. That's going to add you to our email list, so you'll know every single time one of these comes out. Along with that, we talk about different stocks that we're keeping an eye on. We also talk about different statistics, and just a great newsletter to get your hands on. At the bottom of the page, every single day, we post a market psychology video where we go over the psychology of a specific market, rip it all apart, and try to figure out why the market did what it did, and that helps us learn as much as possible so we can better ourselves for the next trading day. And then, of course, every morning, we post our live trader morning prep levels that has all of the major levels of support and resistance that we're going to be looking at for that day. Now, if you haven't done so already, make sure to click on the live trade room subscription and trial info and sign up for a day trial. See what we're all about. If you really like it, you can always subscribe. And this, of course, with VIP membership, the live trade room comes as one package with it, so you never have to worry about paying anything ever again. Now, looking at the Bund, we have some pretty good upward momentum here. We've got a nice bull channel working its way higher, and that bull channel even broke out and continued to form a new move higher that ended up forming a little bit of a wedge at the top. Now, that also comes off of the highs here to here, and we are finding resistance coming off of that level as well. The big thing that we're looking at here is that the buyers have yet to meet their major objective above. They came really close, but their major objective to the upside is going to be 163.55. Now, because we've missed it so aggressively and we had a little bit of a tumble here at the end of the day, what I would like to see is a pullback down into the 163.38 to 34 area, maybe even a little bit below it down to the channel lows, and then look for that bouncing back up to finish that job off at 163.55. Now, the Bund market is closed, and if we can get an open that is a gap down into this area of support, that would be even better. That might even be a buy off of the opening price to try to get that drive higher. But it all depends on where we open up, because things could obviously change sentiment pretty quickly if we opened up with a gap higher, as an example. So we definitely want to be buyers, but preferably on a little bit of a pullback. The Euro took quite the leap towards the upside here. A little bit ago, we had President Trump talking about the US dollar becoming a little too strong, and once that started coming out, things went a little bit crazy, and the Euro took a heck of a rip higher. From the beginning of that statement to where the news kind of stuck through, it jumped up about 62 ticks. So that's a big move. And that 62 points, remember, the way that the Euro ticks is in halves now. So it's actually quite a bit more than that. But just a huge ramp to the upside with immense amounts of strength. Now, this big blast to the upside does have buyers' major objectives if they want to continue this drive up at 72.31 or all the way up to 73.26. We have last week's high at 72.55 as well, so a lot of magnets for price to jump on in there. This is forming a very aggressive, albeit an ascending wedge. Not the best looking thing in the world, and if anything, you could even possibly argue maybe they want to turn this into a channel, something like this. Both of them honestly fit pretty well, but all things considered, this is obviously bullish. We want to be buyers in here on any pullback that we can get our hands on. The initial pullback that happened dropped down to around 67.22, and it was picked up immediately by buyers and snapped right back to a new high. So the fact that the buyers were so aggressive on that pullback, they're likely going to be a little bit exhausted. Nobody has any more orders to put in buys because they're already in. So we need a little bit of a pullback. I would love to see the market dip back down to that 67.22 area where they initially started buying aggressively into, and see if we can catch one more bounce here to the upside to finish off those major objectives at the top side. Over on gold, we also took a quick little rip to the upside with all of that chatter, and that gave us a big upside objective at 89.3 that has yet to hit. We're waiting for the buyers to really step up to the plate and give that market a good push here, and we can see, they're still not really slowing down. Very similar to the way that the Euro looked with that big burst higher, and now we're starting to form a little bit of an ascending wedge in this case instead of a channel. But either way, the buyers are dominating this market and looking for a possible continuation. There was a chance at a little bit of a wedge top here coming off of the overall highs early this morning into the most recent highs on that spike, but it doesn't look like the market is paying a huge amount of attention to it. So instead, we can look for a tighter little wedge coming off like this. Now, either way, we still have a good amount of just bullishness in here, but the same story goes as the euro with gold. A lot of the buyers are already in, and there's not much more money to throw at the buy side, so we're expecting a pullback. The pullback in gold's case, I would like to see it down to around 82.7 to 81.9 if possible, maybe a little bit below that before we finish off that job to the upside at 89.3. So again, just like the euro, definitely want to be a buyer, but maybe with a little bit of a better price. The bonds catching a nice lift as well, and overall much more range bound than the other markets, which, I mean, it is the bonds. I suppose that's not a big surprise here. But we have a range that held for almost all day, and arguably still is. We had a really hard time even on that news breaking out above it before it came right back down to retest it again. So even the news isn't really giving it enough gas to get it blowing off through the highs, but you know, either way, we are getting that bullish breakout. We're testing the top of a bull channel, drawn off of the lows after that spike higher yesterday afternoon, and that is leading into a spike and channel type formation to the upside with a bunch of resistance between 153.16 up to 153.20. Now, this isn't resistance in the sense of selling pressure that you need to become a seller here, but this is selling resistance in the sense of buyers who bought in, they're taking profit up here. I don't really blame them, right? You've got the channel highs, you've got major resistance, you also have the top of the news that happened there. So chances are we're going to have a lot of buyers that are taking money off of the table up here, and they're going to be looking to reload. Now, that area where they're looking to reload, that's where we really want to pick up on, because if we can get a pullback on this and then a retest of those highs, we may be in store for a good bounce there. And I'm looking for right around 153.07, 06 or so in that area for that pullback bounce before we can get another pop higher. Now, don't be too surprised here if the bonds do get a continuation push to the upside. Very frequently when you retest the top of a channel, you'll see it ping off of it a few times before you get that pullback. Now, we may get a pullback down, get a bounce off of this level for a nice little pop higher, and then continue down for another bounce off of the channel lows. That is definitely a possibility. Either way, though, we want to be buyers, just not this far up in the move. I want to see a pullback a little bit further down than where we are right now. Over on crude oil, beautiful descending wedge pattern formation here working its way down, and the bears just are dominating this market. Ever since about 7 this morning, the sellers really didn't let off the gas pedal. The inventories tried catching a nice bullish run higher with a big surprise of a negative 2 million versus a forecast of a build of, I think it was 8,000 something. So, I mean, with a big surprise number that came out on the inventories, and that still didn't have enough juice in it to reverse it, and it dropped back down into a new low, into this new descending wedge working down. We do have the prior low of day, which in this case, as we go into tomorrow's session, is going to be Tuesday's low, but that's 52.70. We also have last week's high at 52.94. So there are a lot of big areas of support in here that could cause the market to go a little bit range bound. And that's honestly what I would like to see. I want to see the market go range bound a little bit, catch a pop higher so we can find some selling pressure between 53.15 and 12. Or if they really want to give you a gift, maybe a pop higher into 53.28 to 24 to find some selling pressure in there. Either way, though, looking to be a seller on any of those rallies, if we can even get them. It may not be able to even get that far up, but if it does, you better believe my eyes are going to be on the sell side there. And then finally, on the S&P 500, we have a relatively range-bound market, but with a downward bias. Obviously getting a lot of back and forth going on here through the end of the day, but we did have a pretty good bearish move throughout most of the morning session. Now, the morning session, we opened up at 9:30 right there, and you can see they tried kicking it off to the bear side. It reversed back to the upside, reversed back to the downside, reversed back to the upside, and that's where we really started getting clues that, hey, you know, we do have a bear trend, but we're probably going to go into a range here shortly, given how this is moving. And yeah, we're starting to see that more and more. The low end of the range looks to be pretty good around 23.38 down to 37.5. And the highs, it could still be forming, right? It could be forming anywhere from the high around 44. It could be even a little bit further up at 46.25 to 46.75. If they really want to get a pop higher, back to the original drop lower at 48.75 up to 49.5. Either way, though, this is a range, and I'm going to be treating it that way, so I'm looking to buy low, sell high, with a slight emphasis on selling high, given the overall range sentiment. So again, all of those levels of resistance above have kind of my eyeballs on it. And for the buy side, I don't necessarily want to buy in the exact level. You may find some bouncing there. But given that we do have a bear trend, I would rather see them break down and then come back up to try to get the buys off of the lows, just to give it a little bit of a buffer. So that's the outlook for the futures markets. Tomorrow we do have a little bit of news coming out at 8:30. That's the PPI. The forecast is 0. They're forecasting a flat PPI. The previous was a positive 0.3%. So it'll be kind of interesting to see what happens there, but that's it. There isn't any other news for tomorrow. Out of Euro, out of the UK, nothing. So it might be a pretty calm day tomorrow. And don't forget, Friday is also a holiday with Good Friday. So Thursday is the day before the holiday. It could get really, really slow tomorrow, knowing that a lot of traders are probably going to duck out, maybe head out of town, etc. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Tomorrow is a holiday, or not tomorrow being a holiday, but Friday being a holiday could cause a little bit of a drag on tomorrow's price action. The same goes for Monday, where Monday may be really slow as well because everybody's still coming back from the holiday. So generally, when the holiday hits the day before and the day after, or if it's a weekend, that Monday can usually be a little bit kind of shaky. So just play it safe, and like we always say, and this keeps you on the right side of things, make a plan, trade the plan, follow those rules, and you'll be A-okay. Until next time, we'll see y'all later.